Hello everyone, my name is Scorpion and welcome back to Destiny 2. Now, a few things right off the bat. Of course, the world's first race is coming up this Friday. Now, if you actually want to tune in, at least to watch me or support me, give me some chats and cheers on, I will be streaming at twitch.tv/TheMadScorpion, just like my YouTube channel. And if you wanted to go ahead and follow, I will be online about 11 noon-ish, and will be, of course, going for, well, I will say world's first, but at least going for a contest completion on day 1. But regardless, going into the world of Destiny, first thing, loadouts have been re-enabled. So if there's anything that you wanted to do that was related to loadouts, they are now re-enabled so you can get everything. Now, however, if there is something that is on the list that you have to pull out of the vault or collections, like anything that is not present on your character that would have to pull, it won't do that. That's basically the quick temporary fix they did so they can get around the bug that was the loadout issues. Now, aside from that, of course, throughout the world, there is actually the first booster of the season going on, and that is in Gambit. So if you wanted some extra Gambit ranks right off the bat, it is currently boosted Infamy in Gambit, so good time to grind that for a little while. But then in terms of the world rotations, for the Vanguard, our current Nightfall strike is the Heist Battleground Moon, which, of course, if you saw my rant video about Nightfalls, probably not going to be fun, even on, especially not on Grandmaster. And of course, as they always do, it's pretty much the available Nightfall weapon is, of course, the only one that I really wanted from last season, and that is the Braytech Osprey. So, yeah, basically when it comes around and Adepts are available again, it will be on another very difficult Nightfall. So, Bungie, I really want you to sort your crap out. But aside from that, into the rest of the world, I'm not sure if well, actually, no, Trials has already been going. But pretty much, if you want to look into, wrong page. If you want to go to Crucible, our rotator is Zone Control and Mayhem for our rotation game modes, with Trials likely active on the back end of the weekend during the world's first race, although we'll be playing Trials when everyone's going to be going for the new dungeon. To that respect, though, next week, I believe, is probably going to be the first Iron Banner of the season. They usually do that, where it's like week 2, 3, or 4, it is the first Iron Banner. Then, in terms of our Legends tab, just kidding it right off the bat, our rotation mission is currently Vox Obscura. Now, if you don't know what that means, pretty much Vox Obscura is the weapon, and is the mission, and it awards Dead Messenger. And because Dead Messenger is now here, it is also craftable, so there actually is a little bit of better stuff to go for. So it's worth running again in case you already have Dead Messenger, just in case you think this has no flow for you. Plus, I believe the gear sort in set is also all from Season of the Risen, and there's some pretty solid options there. Now, in terms of our rotations, everything is, let's see, for our raid, it is currently Garden of Salvation for the Pinnacle and grinding, and like I always say, Divinity is a quest-related thing, so there's no real exotic to grind for, it's mainly just a gear and armor. Then in terms of everything else, the current rotation dungeon is actually Spire of the Watcher, which is weird considering I thought the last thing that was available was Shattered Throne. So maybe dungeons go backwards down the list. But regardless, Spire the Watcher is there. Any gear, weapons, and especially the exotic hierarchy of needs is now infinitely farmable from Spire the Watcher this week. Then to that respect as well, going throughout the world, they just unlocked legendary version of Savathun Spire with the weekly version. And let's see, is there any sort of locked things about it? Let's see, extra shields, equipment lock, void threat, overload and barrier champions, and then the usual overcharge sword and solar and strand surges. I'm not sure how much, it might be cooperative, and also allegedly has matchmaking. So hopefully that goes a little bit later. It might just be like a harder Nightfall. But of course, I believe Altars of Summoning might have a little bit new things, and the Savathun Spire might be a little bit different. Of course, the seasonal story continues as forward. But then in terms of everything else, the legendary salvage mission is currently Fallen, Site Security, Site Reliability, and Engineering, with Uragotha the Taken Ogre for the final boss. And like I mentioned before, the Legend Defiant Battlegrounds actually rotate daily, so there's no point in really mentioning what's going on that. Then, just to keep things up on the date, starting with Dares of Eternity for our legendary mode, we have Fallen, Hive, and Zydron for our rotations in Legendaires. But then going into the rest of the world for all the raid challenges. On Last Wish side, we have Strength of Memory, which is Riven Challenge. Pretty easy one to do if you're cheesing. And then going to Europa for challenge, it is currently the Atrax Copies of Copy challenge. Basically, if you cheese it and just kind of melt Atrax, you don't have to worry about it. You just need to make sure that you don't delete any of the orbs. You just got to hold on to them until activity completion, pretty much. Then for going into the Throne World, that is currently Looping Catalyst, which is Rolk Challenge, actually. So if you do not lose any of the Leeching buff, and you do not lose that. And then into Vault of Glass and King's Fall, it is Wait For It Challenge, which is pretty much, if I recall, Templar Challenge off the top of my head. I always forget, though, at Vault has been so long. And then for King's Fall as well, it is Hands Off, which is, I think, Oryx Challenge as well. I just have to always... It's very much those challenges. And then doubling back to Neptune for our rotation. Like I said, Root of Nightmares is no longer the pinnacle because of Crota coming back soon. But pretty much... oh, that's an issue. It appears that Root of Nightmares doesn't have an active challenge. So, that might be a bug. It might need to be fixed. But bear with it. I think it was the Illuminated Torment, which I would say it is the Crossfire Challenge now, if I recall. Now, going into the rest of the world, the Vex Incursion Zone is now in Ahimsa Park that is rotated around, so if you're looking for Vex Strike Forces, that's where they will be. Possibly one active, I don't know. But then, of course, the partition is the Ordnance one, aka the annoying one, but aside from that, on that same note, the farming mission is currently Downfall, which is basically the one where you have to go into the ship and fight all the Cabal inside and have the little strand moment and everything. But then, that is pretty much everything on that note. Now, while I'm thinking of it, nothing else there. Now, in terms of rotations and quests, now, of course, there is no seasonal challenges, only 7. This one, of course, is just basic continue the story. Then also Luminary 1, which is Master Light by defeating combatants with Void, Arc, and Solar damage. And explore the Arcana arts by identifying minor Arcana cards at the Lectern of Divination. Basically, if you've been claiming those cards and collecting things from the table in the Eris area of the Anthenium, I think it was, it's retroactive, so if you've done a bunch, you should already have them. And then also Legend Spire for completing 7th Inspire on Legendary, healthy chunk of XP. Wisps and Whispers for draw Whisper card from the deck of Whispers in 7th Inspire or the Altar of Summoning to earn powerful bonuses, which I feel like is basically the Invoke Darkness and Deep Dives thing. Absolutely stunning for stunning champions. If you just get one barrier champion or an overload, you can just stun them over and over again in case you just want to cheese it. Most dangerous prey for defeating guardians in Gambit or Crucible. Only 25 and not a percentage chance. I like that idea. Especially with Mayhem active. That'll make it easy. And you also have Bank Kill Repeat, which is basically banking moats, defeating blockers, and defeating guardians in Gambit. But that one you have to get a lot of points for, so that might take a while. Then, that is pretty much everything. Now, in terms of the world, like I said, the world's first race is happening, so it might dull down how much stuff needs to go actually into the week. Like I said, loadouts have been re-enabled, although slightly more awkwardly, so keep an eye on that. Then, in terms of what Banshee has on his front page. So, we have Arsenic Bite 4B, which is the rebranded version from a while ago, but not the updated version, which Snapshot Sight's meh, explosive head pretty good, although there is a different lightweight bow in case you need something more current. Shattered Cipher from Seasonal Splicer, which is a rapid-fire frame I wanted to like, and while it does have some solid rolls, in comparison to Recurring Impact and other newer rapid-fire frames, it's hard to actually vouch for it, especially with the lack of an origin trait in the Splicer gear. Then we also have Night Watch, which is one of the old faithfuls for a Scout Rifle lightweight frame. While Threat Detector Multi-Kill Clip is pretty not the greatest, but still pretty solid, this is pretty much an overall great Scout Rifle in case you need anything for a little bit longer range. And you also have Pizzicato 22, which is a Suros Adaptive Frame Kinetic 900 RPM SMG. While this setup is pretty alright, I guess, it's still one of those SMGs that doesn't really have a place in any sort of archetype except for maybe some Crucible. And lastly, we have Galu RR3 from Season of the Haunted, which is a basic Arc Amalon Sniper Rifle. Pretty mixed perks, PvE or PvP-wise, but at the same time, there's not much that really makes this thing shine outside of things like Uzume, although maybe an origin trait. And then in terms of his main weapons, we have Legal Action 2, which is a high-impact Hockey frame that doesn't have the Hockey origin trait. Still hoping this one will get updated one day. We also have Aura Vandal FR6, which is stats for all elemental capacitor, basically trash. But then again, the only good roll was pretty much Subsistence and Chill Clip, but that has also been nerfed just because Chill Clip isn't as good as it once was. And the Stochastic Variable, one of those SMGs that I really like because it's unique in the fact that this is one of the only SMGs nowadays that has access to Phase Mag. If you don't know what that does, this changes archetype completely for its rate of fire. Harsh Language, which is a pretty solid choice for a wave frame, not to mention access to things like Destabilizer rounds, so pretty solid for Void builds if you want them. Although, it's kind of hard to get what you want, it seems, nowadays. Then we also have Taipan 4FR, craftable, so if you can get a few to drop red border, I would recommend doing this. Otherwise, if you don't have a pretty solid linear fusion rifle, this one is probably the best you can do on short notice. And then also Nazruddin, which is a basic uppercut sword. Not that much shining qualities about it, but if you need a sword, at least rapid fire, that you can do worse. And to wrap everything up, 801 with our Association of Shaders has House of Myron from Black Armor, which think of this as basically New Monarchy, but a little bit animated and probably a different set of color shades, although, not gonna lie, I'm really liking the look it's given my Titan. You also have New Pacific Rush from the old Titan set, which is basically a nice little aquatic look. Not too bad in color combination, but it's unique. And you also have, like I said, New Monarchy Regalia, which is basically a shinier, more metallic version of what you just looked at with Myron, if that makes sense, which is a pretty solid look still in this day, especially when you look like Iron Man. But on that note, pretty much that is the broad reset of everything. Now, I will say also, loadouts are re-enabled. I'm going to say that again, just in case. And just as another self-plug, I will be streaming at twitch.tv/TheMadScorpion, just like my channel name on YouTube, for the Day 1 raid. I can't guarantee a victory or even some solid jokes, but I can guarantee at least some footage from the Day 1 raid. On that note, my name is Mad Scorpion, and I'll see you in the next video.